a little late. Not an April Fool's joke. We weren't ranking everyone that we weren't going to.
I get blamed for everything bad. Javier blaming me. April Fool's, the thing Spike would do. What the fuck, man? Come on, give me a break here. Is that me? I'm an April Fool's guy.
No, I mean, I think that now's a good time if you want to. Other things that you get blamed for, if you want to open that up. Just friendly, a warm room. CJ's got a nice hat on.
That's right. Mike, do you also have a similar hat to this?
I do.
Nice.
It's a nice hat. We got so much merch. My dad will never have to buy any other clothes ever.
It's interesting because we never have a lot at one time because we don't stock anything. But I have a section in my closet that is only Ricky shirts, and I'm missing probably 5 of them. But I think we're in the mid 50s for number of shirts we've done. If you count Bark in the Park, Lottery Party, yada, yada, yada. Like it just 50s? Keeps going. Yeah.
Have you thought about doing something other than wearing, like making a blanket out of them or something?
Oh, a quilt.
No,
I'm a t-shirt guy. So I love having like the t-shirts, and all my Ricky shirts used to just be in a box away because I don't wear them that much. But the fact that I can hang them and like look through them now that my closet is nice.
There's got to be some of them that you haven't worn in multiple months, right?
Yeah. Some that I've never worn that I just bought just because I wanted to have one. So I'm trying to think. Yeah, mid 50s, definitely. I think we did a thing a couple years ago where we did like vote on a reprint where we put the pictures of a lot of them up there. And maybe I'll take a picture of every one of them and show all the ones I have for the 19. The people that are bored in between Coven updates can look at that. Same kind of person, I think. We were ready to rock and roll. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS and brought to you by Mortgage CS. Become a Mortgage CS Ricky VIP by going to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. Body Bio. Get 20% off any order at bodybio.com with code FIRECJ. FIRECJ, that is. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. And Kinetic Skateboarding, get 20% off all Converse shoes this weekend with code RickyCons. More on that in a second. On the show today, the Sixers basically cemented right there in the 3rd seed. Take one from the Raptors. BBall Paul makes an all-time BBall Paul play at the all-time BBall Paul moment, I thought. The newest MVP straw poll is out, and Joel Embiid is in the lead, but just barely. We'll also check in on the DraftKings odds for Embiid's MVP. The NBA has a new CBA, and we got a disturbing, threatening voicemail in regard to the ever-changing Coven situation. Mike, wait till you hear this voicemail. We will also take a look at the Ringer Top 100 and get to your other voicemails and emails. By the way, we'll get to this later too. A Ricky playoff merch is out. A couple hats, a couple t-shirts. We'll talk about it later. If you go to the website and just go to the store section, you can see all of that. But we'll get to that later. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. We are at 9,100 subscribers. We need to get to 10,000 by the playoffs or CJ gets fired. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, which is like 55% of the audience that watches on YouTube is not subscribed. Subscribe right now. Turn on notifications so you know when we're live. Or if you're not watching on YouTube, go there and subscribe. And I mentioned Kinetic Skateboarding. They're doing specials for us every weekend now. This weekend, every Converse sneaker at kineticskateboarding.com is 20% off with code RickyCons. And I think there's like 25 different ones. A note, though, about the Chucks that are on the Kinetic website. These are better Chucks than you normally would buy in like Foot Locker or something. They're made for skateboarders. So there's like extra padding. It's like a more solid Chuck. It is a more comfortable wear and I think a longer lasting. So if you're at kineticskateboarding.com looking at the Chucks, they are different and I would say better than the ones you normally would. Again, the code is RickyCons and that goes through Sunday. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
Say the name. were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Forever.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who has gone from the phone to the headset mic to the podcast guy mic to a real mic. That is our very own, coincidentally, Mike Levin.
There we go. New mic.
Better mic.
New mic. Who this?
Wow, you sound like our probably 6 months ago I went and got a different mic. Our mics didn't sound the same for a little while, but now you've got the real guy mic. How does it feel?
The same. I don't hear any difference on my end. In
It's
fact, you
definitely
were a little
different,
too
right?
loud earlier, so I was during the intro. I was trying to figure out how to turn the volume down because you were really up in my brain, and I did it. So now we're in a good place. So
CJ, it sounds great, right? Producer, you're producing over there. So
CJ nodding his wet head off.
Still wet from the kidnapping. Oh, we have that. So I'm sitting there watching the Sixers Raptors game on Friday night. My wife is away back in Philadelphia, so I was there by myself watching a Sixers Raptors game. With 6 games left in the season, thinking to myself, "Wow, neither me nor the players want to be doing this right now." But the Sixers play a solid enough game played well at the right times and got through it. And I would say at this point, all you want to do is you don't want to just not get anybody hurt because you want to continue to play well. You want to get Embiid the MVP. You want to get out of there with a win. And I thought that's what they did. An overall harmless and useless game.
Oh, I kind of disagree. I thought, I mean, I have to, I watched it on delay last night. And I kept falling asleep during the game, being like, I just want to watch it really quickly. And then I kept trying to rewind it. So it took several hours longer than I wanted it to because I kept falling asleep. I'm like, it's the third quarter. I didn't get to the third quarter yet. And I have to go back and be like, okay, I remember this BBall Paul play. Okay, let's go back. It was not an effective way to do it, but
it was good for Harden, I would say.
I thought both Harden and Embiid looked like they were lying about their injuries before. I want to live in a world where that is gamesmanship, and they're both pretending like they have Achilles. Harden being like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'll ever walk again, but I'm playing.
Yep.
I'm out here. But yeah, I thought Harden was excellent. Obviously, they shot 76% from the field in the first half. That is good. Harden just looked like he was doing everything. He had some pep. I was worried about the lift on his jumper. That was back.
Yeah.
He was controlling the tempo. He was using his speed to get by guys. He was using his handle. His handle seemed tight. And there's a difference between Harden turning the corner on somebody and then using his shoulder to get fouled and using trickery to draw a foul and basically grift. Or turning the corner and drawing the defense or whatever, and then turning the corner for an advantage and then getting all the way to the rim.
Right.
And it felt like last night was the first time in a few weeks where he was getting all the way to the rim. And it's important to note, against a really long, physical, tough team in the Raptors who haven't had a great season, but there's still a ton of guys on there that have given the Sixers and Harden specifically trouble. Him crossing up OG Anunoby and finishing inside was sick. I love anytime Harden is doing hit-aheads in transition. I love those full court chest passes to DeAnthony Melton. Amazing. And I really think they've found something in we talked a lot about over the course of the year, staggering Harden and Embiid, right? of like when what's the lineup with just one of them, and how often do you go with none of them, and you just never need to go with none of them in games that matter. But I really feel like they've found something in the Harden plus bench athletes lineup. So it's Harden plus BBall, obviously, and then Jalen McDaniels, Dan House, and then Shake as just like a guy who can kind of shoot and do everything else. And they're getting out in transition. They're scoring before the defense gets set. It felt like the Sixers were starting to play the way that other teams play against the Sixers, and it was nice to see them obviously hit 40,000 shots in a row, and just like
including a Jalen McDaniels jab step 3, which will never happen again.
Yeah, and Dan House hitting shots. Everybody was hitting shots. It wasn't like they just shot like 70% from 3 game. It was like they were getting to the rim. They were doing like it felt very just they were just like creating good shots for themselves. And sometimes they didn't make it in the third quarter. The shots started to miss, wide open shots started to miss. But I thought it was like a good, like you look at that game and you go like, these are the kinds of shots we can get, and it'll all adjust and it'll all whatever. But like it felt like a really cohesive and positive game for everybody, but Harden specifically.
I know you'll deny this, but
Okay.
let me just float a theory.
Let's hear it.
As you, and we received an email about this, but it was something that you that we had several pods ago, but it was something that you just said specifically that made it pop into my head. You're like, there's a Harden and all athletic guys on the bench unit or whatever. There's a particular person who was missing from the lineup yesterday, who is, I'm not going to say is a bad player or a prohibitive player, but not particularly athletic, not particularly, long, and Tobias Harris didn't play. And their record without Tobias Harris this year is very good. Their record when Tobias Harris plays less is good. And it just, again, I don't know what the conclusion to draw specifically, because he's on the team and he's going to play a lot. But but Harden specifically should be on the floor with either like somebody who can make up for his defensive deficiencies, or just fucking super quick trigger from 3 and happy just standing there, or both. And Tobias Harris is really neither. And I do think it is,
or at least not consistently neither.
Right.
Sometimes he's some
right.
of them.
And again, he's not a bad defender. He is a bit more quick shooter than he used to be. But I think him being out of the lineup sort of allows the McDaniels and House and those sorts of guys. And it makes you wonder. It's funny. It's like the Raptors are made up of, I think the reason that we always think they're so good, aside from them playing the Sixers tough, is they're made up of only players that the Sixers would be better with if Tobias Harris was that player instead of Tobias Harris. No offense, Tobias, but I do think it's notable that he didn't play last night. And
I don't know that that's true anymore. Who are you talking about? Because
OG Anunoby.
That's the one, I think.
Well, but I would rather have Scotty Barnes.
I understand you'd rather have him, but he's not. That's not the template of the kind of guy you'd rather have
That's fair.
instead of Tobias.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. Yeah. Well, I'd rather have. Did he even? Gary Trent.
He didn't play last night.
He didn't play. Yeah. But I guess you're right. That's correct. Anyway, that is a long thing to say that Tobias wasn't there, and it is notable, I think, in some way.
No, I wouldn't mind
even if
the
not
lineup.
actionable. Even if not actionable.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that lineup that I just said, except with Tobias in for Shake. I think that Shake's obviously like struggles with the quick trigger anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is just the Sixers go back and forth between being like a deep team that you're like trying to find minutes for, and I like that we've gotten a little bit of Korkmaz over the last couple weeks just to spice it up some. And then you go like they have no one. They have 6 players maybe, and everybody's exploitable. Last night was a stretch of like, man, they're deep. Everybody's doing stuff.
Yeah,
that feels good. But yeah, I thought Harden really like set the tone the whole night. I mean, Embiid had a little bit of foul trouble early, and so it became like a little bit more of the Harden show. And he just dictated the pace and the time and everything of the game. I loved the BBall Paul Harden give and go.
It was great.
That was awesome. That was just a really, if you had drawn up that play, I think Paul might have forgotten it. But in the moment, he's just instinctive and reaction. He just reacts. And it was sick. And how about BBall Paul hitting 5 foul shots?
Yep.
I loved it. I now watch BBall Paul like he's my son.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
and when he
I'm
missed,
so
like he missed
proud.
that. Yes, I'm proud of him when he does well. I'm mad when Doc takes him out, and when he like misses the dunk, I'm like, come on, Paul.
Well, so 2 notes from Paul last night. Yes, that is a great. Paul Reed tweets in the third person there. Paul Reed tweets, Paul Reed, we need that dunk, and then crying emoji. Good team win though, Sixers.
I love it.
Emoji, 100 emoji.
I love it.
So there were 2 moments from Paul. First of all, it was a great Paul run for a few minutes there with James Harden passing to him a few times. There's 2 specific Paul moments that made me chuckle that I loved. First, you touched on it, was he misses the dunk, but then you can almost feel he knows how bad it was to miss the dunk.
Yeah.
So his instinct is to hang on the rim and go get the ball.
That's right.
Because he's not thinking. He's just being an instinct. He's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
And then when
He's
he
in a
gets
state of denial as he's hanging on the rim.
and then when he gets called for that, as that is not allowed, as
No.
basket interference or whatever, you can tell he knows what just happened and that James Harden will not pass to him for 4 more
No, that's
games
it.
now. Yeah.
That's it.
And
And,
then
he was passing to him. He was starting to do it. It's happening where nobody say anything. He's doing it. And yeah, there it goes.
And then the other moment, and you know this is his instinct every time, but he followed his instinct a little too much on this, was when he gets an offensive rebound with a little bit of space, he's not right under the basket. His instinct is to start shaking and baking.
I love it.
And he did it right around the free throw line. He's like dribbling, shaking, baking, and all of a sudden something snapped in his head, and it was like, Paul, stop shaking and baking and pass it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So it was a good Paul game though. +7.
He's wearing an earpiece, and some like British woman is saying, "Paul, stop shaking and baking." That's what he has to do. Yeah, I mean, he's just he does this every game. He had 4 offensive rebounds in 14 minutes, and I don't know. Like now I'm arguing with no one, but like
everybody thinks he's good now.
Yeah, everybody we're proven right, but I'm never going to get over it because Doc didn't play him at all last year and then needed him in the playoffs. Like he's just like getting other possessions for your team, and then with like steals and blocks, preventing other possessions for their team is good.
It's huge.
That's like
very Chip Kelly of him.
That's like so
more
much
plays.
of basketball is just have more possessions, give yourself more opportunities, give them fewer opportunities. And just because he occasionally shakes and bakes when he's not supposed to, like he's awesome, man. He's the best. He's great. And he didn't have any fouls last night. And I just got to say, like, anybody, there's been too many people that say, like, who's going to have 5 fouls in 3 minutes. I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
And neither should you.
Yeah.
Foul trouble doesn't matter for people on the bench. Like, and I think coaches must be just hardwired to like, someone has 3 fouls, like take them out now, come bring them back in. But it doesn't matter.
Well, I think
you're not playing him 40 minutes a game when Embiid's healthy, and even when Embiid's not healthy, you're not doing that. Like, it's okay.
3 points. I think the other thing. Well, if he's fouling on a shot, you know,
but
like coach,
I'd rather have a guy that contests.
Yeah, I agree.
And
especially on the Sixers,
and get stuff out of it. Like, obviously, I wish he contests without fouling sometimes. I wish that, saying that like Jaren Jackson, it's a problem that he fouls so much and gets himself in foul trouble. But he's a starter level player, and BBall Paul is playing 18 minutes a game in the regular season, or 9 minutes a game in the playoffs. Like, contest hard, do your thing, occasional fouls, and not every foul that he gets, some of them are reach-in fouls, so it's not like they're shooting foul shots off of it every time. So I just think it doesn't matter. He is great. He is a net positive, so much more. And yeah, B-Ball, we need that dunk, man. We need that dunk.
Speaking of BBall Paul, he will be at Live Ricky 5. Boy, it's working out well. We were nervous he wouldn't be on the team. He's going to get traded. He's going to get cut. He's not playing. He's like fucking playing and good now.
He's playing and good. He's always been good. He hasn't always been playing.
It's worked out better. Yeah,
yes, for sure. But I think it's especially working out that he's a little bit feeling himself now, because he seems to be accepted by his teammates more.
Yeah. It'll be great.
And now he's tweeting about it. I love it.
So B-Ball, if you're not going to be at Live Ricky 5 because you couldn't get tickets, thanks to Mortgage CS, we are professionally shooting the entire thing. So later that week, there will be a video presentation on YouTube thanks to Mortgage CS. So you'll be able to see BBall Paul. We have some good things planned for BBall Paul, really good things. Mortgage CS, a proud sponsor of the Ricky. We love Mortgage CS. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky to become a Ricky Mortgage CS VIP. If you've never gotten a mortgage before, there's mortgage brokers, there's mortgage lenders. The lenders are the banks that get you the money. The brokers are the ones that are supposed to go and find you the best rate, right? Like the best loan. And that's what Mortgage CS is. They are a broker. The thing to know about them versus other ones, though, is that they are independent. They don't have any of these like secret deals with banks. So that the thing that can happen with some of the other bigger mortgage brokers is they have a deal with a bank and their motivation is not just for you. Their motivation is for them. Mortgage CS's only motivation is for you. They are independent. They care about you. They take care of the Ricky family. And I would recommend them wholeheartedly. If you want to get in touch with them, you can do it at any time, which is important too. Here's the CEO, Ben. Here is his cell phone number. You could text him right now, 267-391-7425. If you're listening, you're watching right now, text him, see if he's coming to Live Ricky 5. He is. 267-391-7425. The other thing that Mortgage CS is going to do during this entire process for you, not only get you the best rate, not only sort of calm your nerves, they're going to teach you about the mortgage process. So you're going to know exactly what you're signing, why you're signing it, why it's the best. They're local, they're independent, they're good people. They are the best at what they do. Very proud to have Mortgage CS as a sponsor. Again, go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. See the beautiful site they set up for us. You can schedule a consultation or call or text Ben 267-391-7425. mortgagecs.com/Ricky. This advertisement, not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com/Ricky for more information.
BBall Paul, do you know BBall Paul shoots from the line?
Ooh, this is a good thing to guess. 72%?
75%.
There you go. How many free throws though?
36 and 48.
Yeah.
But like he's got some nice touch. He's going to be shooting threes next season. Whether it's for us or someone else, he's going to be shooting threes next season. And by the way, like Dwayne Devin's only played a couple minutes here or whatever, but like I was like, maybe he's going to shoot threes, and he hasn't hit one. Like, it's just like, we are cursed. Maybe it's a Doc thing. Maybe it's because I've won it too bad. But, like, we will just never have a legitimate stretch five backup. Like, literally all I'm asking for. Aaron Baines. Anything. Anything at all. Someone that can do something with shooting it, and they're not allowed to.
Well, it always goes back to Horford, who we, by the way, do not acknowledge his existence at this point.
Yeah. But they didn't get him for that purpose, so it's a little bit tough. I thought it was in the same way that Embiid, that Harden was like, he has pop, he has juice. I thought Embiid showed that enough to where I wasn't as concerned.
I agree.
It looked like he had some juice back in his legs. He had the dunk attempt that didn't go. He skied for a big rebound. He erased some blocks. Like, it was just a bunch of like. He didn't seem like he was in between me drifting off to sleep and having to rewind. He didn't seem like he was like moping around. And he was nursing.
It was a normal game. I think a normal end of the season game for him. He wasn't like outstanding, but he was good enough, and he showed enough. To your point earlier about it, both he and Harden making the injuries look a little fake. Mm-hmm. They both looked a little normal, for two guys who are missing games for injury.
Yeah, and the Raptors are always, they'll turn him over. He had 5 turnovers. That's too much. But like it still felt like he was making, for the most part, the right pass. When they double, I'll make the right play kind of thing. I hope that continues into the playoffs when it gets a little tighter. And when you cover him straight up, he's either going to blow by Jakob Poeltl and draw a foul, or he's going to get into his like one dribble pull up from anywhere on the court. He's just an exceptional offensive player at this point. And he deserves for the narrative to change on him in the playoffs. Like, he really, regardless
he needs to do it, and I think he can. Right?
He needs to do it, and he needs to be. It's really like most of it is just being healthy. If he's healthy for the playoffs, and like doesn't have to miss playoff games, then like he's going to be good. He's going to be excellent. Like they might not win against in the second round, whatever. But he's at this point too good to where like the way he's defended or some shooting variance or whatever is going to keep him from doing something. He's just like, he's beyond like stoppable. You might be able to like, hold him back from getting like 47 or whatever, but he's just like an elite offensive player. And it's stunning how much better he's gotten from like how good he was in 2018, where we go like, oh my God, look how good he's gotten in the first 2 years of his career. And now he's just like, he's just unreal. He's a stunning player.
A note on the injury thing. I think like it's sort of hard to correctly talk about it. But what I would say about him being injured in the playoffs is you're right, is not totally about injury, but mostly about injury. It is right that injury is not his fault specifically, but it's also right that injury can't prevent you from being great in the playoffs if you're going to win a championship. Like not that you should be injured and not let it prevent you, but if every season you're injured in the playoffs and you can't, that is the reason that your team didn't win, then that, like, unfortunately it will be seen as it's painted by the people who want to point to it as sort of something he can control or a negative, but he can't control it. But it is real. I mean, he's 30 years old and never had a healthy playoffs at this point. And
he's had one, and it was in the bubble.
Right. And that, yeah. And so it's like
Ben was out. Yeah.
But wasn't his knee something too, or was it Ben's knee? I thought there was
back.
Right. Didn't Embiid have a knee thing in the bubble?
He might have. Totally.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think I agree with you. He is in better position this year than any other season to go out and prove it in the playoffs, and I hope that he does.
But that's why like you do the like, okay, you sat the second half of the Bulls game, you have a back-to-back, and then you want to play the Nuggets game. Like that's why that conversation, even if it's not like a fun conversation for the training staff or Doc or some assistant coaches or Daryl or fucking Josh Harris or fucking the sixth man who's at the game forever with the old guy with the white hair. Like someone needs to have that conversation with Joel, and he needs to be receptive to it because like he wants to play every game. I understand. He wants to be ready for the playoffs. Absolutely. It just has to be. He can't control Pascal Siakam hitting him with an elbow, but we can't control like, hey, let's make sure he's not in that game at that point, and let's make sure he's not playing back-to-backs when he's already hurt. Like there can just be a little bit more like proactive forward thinking to make sure that, yeah, injuries happen. They've happened to Embiid more often than most players. He just needs to be ready for the playoffs. And it's like, we don't have to handle it with kid gloves, but we can be smarter about it. And it seems like the Sixers are just like, it's up to him. And it's like, I need more than that. I need more than that.
It is up to him.
I need more. I need it to be more than that. I need it to be an open conversation.
But I also think like I think you want them to be able to predict when being in the game is going to hurt him.
No, I mean there's that you can't do that. If it happens in like the midway through the second quarter of a close game that matters, like that happens. There's nothing you can do about it. But like you can go, okay, we're up 28 on the Raptors with 3 minutes left in the game. Let's take him out. And if they come back, then we can bring him back in. But like, let's just like, I need a little bit more like, he's our guy. Let's be smart about it. And it seems like they're just like playing like, whatever. And yes, injuries can happen at any time, but they feel worse and they feel dumber when they happen at preventable times, or they're acting not in like efficient ways about it, like sitting the Bulls game, playing it back-to-back, missing the biggest game of the season. Like it feels like we're not in like smart, capable hands, and I need them to just like execute a plan. They're talking about it. They're not just like whatever. Like Kawhi has these conversations. But
Kawhi doesn't have conversations. Kawhi dictates.
That's fair. But I think there's probably some conversation with him and Ty Lue of like at least accepting this is what it is, and it should be it should be Kawhi's call for the most part, but I just need Joel to get reasonably on that level as well. So I don't know, or replace the training staff. I don't know. Didn't Daryl say it's the same training staff over like many years?
We keep talking about blaming the training.
I know, but it's fun to blame somebody else.
Yeah, that's a good point. So before we get to the MVP conversation very quickly, we did drop a bunch of new merch for the playoffs this morning. 2 hats, 2 t-shirts. So the 2 hats, one CJ is wearing. CJ, could you go to the trucker version? If you just hit, there it goes. It's got a little rope in the front with the logo. These ship like within a week. So you order this, they're made to order, they ship within a week. Mm-hmm. There's the dad hat version. Everybody has always yelled at us for not having dad hats because I like the new era snapbacks. So here you go. Here is the dad hat. The Ricky dad hat also ships almost immediately. And then 2 t-shirts. These are both pre-orders. Will take a little bit longer because we pre-order for 2 weeks and then ship. This is for the true sick fucks. It is a PJ Tucker Isle of Dogs t-shirt. Mm-hmm. It is a tribute to it was with the Wes Anderson movie, Isle of Dogs, I believe. Yeah. So if you are a casual, you will not wear a PJ Tucker t-shirt. If you are a real hoop head like myself, you will wear something like this. The PJ Tucker shirt for the playoffs. And then, of course, something that we've all been waiting for, the Coven This Brings Me No Joy t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. This Brings Me No Joy could also be just the sort of tagline for the Sixers.
Yeah. The front of the shirt has the anonymous Coven member. There you go. If you're watching, you see it with Coven behind him. And This Brings Me No Joy in kidnapper font. And then on the back, a knife with CJ on it. So just
I think that you should be allowed to pronounce it correctly if you want. Since if you buy the shirt, you can pronounce it Coven because that is how the word is pronounced, despite how an anonymous terrorist would pronounce it.
We will get to that. If you're listening to the pod, just go there's a link in the description. Otherwise, go to rightstoRickySanchez.com and hit the store link. So the straw poll came out this week, the newest straw poll, as the national media is incredibly disappointed in the toxic MVP conversation, but they take a vote on MVP 65 times a year, publicize it, and write a big, long story on it. Mm-hmm. So the most recent straw poll has Joel Embiid in the lead with 40 first place votes and 45 second place votes. Interestingly enough, Jokic had more first place votes, but Embiid in the lead by 2 points and then trailing long behind for some unexplained reason. I do think it's funny that Giannis is just like not even considered by anybody to win the MVP. It is kind of funny.
I think some people will vote for him.
Yeah, he'll get some votes. So, and right now, the odds have shifted once again at DraftKings Sportsbook. Joel Embiid, a minus 170 favorite. Jokic plus 150. Giannis plus 800.
Wow.
AU wrote a good article about how, like, the Sixers should, like, and he and Embiid not be stupid about it, but go for it and get him the MVP. And, like, I thought it was a really good article, and I totally agree with it. I would really love for him to have the MVP. I know I have said before, and I think it's a much longer conversation that I'd rather have him win the MVP than they win the championship. But I think the MVP for him and for the people who have rooted for him would have a special place. And Embiid winning the most toxic debated MVP of all time.
That does sound right. That does sound like us.
It would be great for us because we would be such dickheads about it the entire time. So.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be very nice if you won. I also think that Embiid winning a championship would also be satisfying in a more holistic way. But they love straw polls.
Yeah.
Toxic straw polls. Just drinking Bucks County water out of the tube toxically. I mean, there's very few games left. We're monitoring the games played situation. We're monitoring Tobias's dunks. We can look at the standings. I think it's interesting, but it might just happen. It might just be Joel's time.
Would be, especially after missing the Jokic game, him winning it anyway would be. We've had a lot of smug moments on the pod, but Embiid winning this particular MVP would be one of the most annoying things we've ever we've ever experienced from our side. Fun
Yeah,
for
I
us.
mean,
Annoying
Sixers
for
and Nuggets have the exact same record right now. Jokic has missed the last couple games. It's just like, I don't know. We've talked about it so much. It's just like, just let it happen. Let it happen. He wins. We're happy. It doesn't get announced until
No,
midway through the playoffs, right? Oh,
yeah,
boy.
I think like around the conference finals. So we'll already be eliminated.
Oh no!
Yeah,
I'm now seeing that path laid out in front of us.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry about that. That's how it ends. It's like we always have this moment of joy, like with the what is it? The light at the end of the tunnel is a freight train coming our way. Like that is every moment for us. So,
Yeah.
yeah. We got this voicemail to 833 Lickface. Curious, Mike, what you think of this voicemail.
Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from
Tony T, you fucking pussies.
an inmate at Florida Correctional Institution.
Yo, man, what the fuck, dude? Yo, I'm in Florida, right? Getting fucking vacation. I got an Airbnb down there, just chilling out. And I'm fucking getting my head straight after, a lot of shit went down in my life, right? And then, I get a fucking bang on the door. Get the fuck off me. I get a bang on the door right in the middle of the fucking night. Fuzz comes in, they're like, yo, dude, where is he? Where is he? I'm like, where the fuck is who, man? I'm just, waking up out of sleep. They're slapping me, breaking the shit in the house, talking about where is he? I'm like, yo, this is an Airbnb. This ain't even my fucking house, dude. They're like, yo, we know who you fucking took him and all this shit. So I'm like, yo, dude, you're fucking me up. So you pricks just did this to me on a podcast. You better make a podcast to get me out too, you motherfuckers.
So a prepaid collect call from a Florida correctional facility from Tony T, who appears to be denying his involvement in Coven. Mike, your thoughts?
Aaron B.
Airbnb in Florida. This ain't even my house, he says to the Fuzz.
What a special human being.
Yep.
We're
Now, we
dealing with.
did also get this voicemail, Mike.
Hey guys, just wanted to weigh in on the Coven pronunciation debate. In my heart, I need it to be pronounced Coven, because the whole time I was thinking it was a reference to the documentary American Movie that came out in the late 90s. There's all these two burnouts in Wisconsin trying to make a horror movie, and the one guy keeps calling it Coven, the director. And then halfway through the movie, someone says, "I mean Coven," and he just ignores it and keeps plowing through, which is hysterical. So I needed to be pronounced Coven. I guess that's my basketball thing. So my non-basketball thing would be little mini jigsaw. If you could only have one of these for the rest of your life, all of your foods have to be like viscous, like soups, yogurts, or all of your drinks have to be viscous, like smoothies, shakes, that kind of thing. So anyway, want to hear what you think.
All viscous everything.
Yeah, I would rather have my foods viscous than all of my drinks.
Oh, I'd rather have my drinks viscous for sure.
Then you never drink water ever again.
Viscousy water, baby.
Oh, that's
I'd rather eat food than drink water.
That's fair. I would not. Have you seen the clip?
No, I haven't seen it, but I've seen people talking about it. Yeah.
So this is from American Movie, which I've never seen.
The name of the film is Coven.
It's pronounced Coven, man. What else could it be pronounced?
Coven. That's the proper pronunciation.
No. Coven. No. Coven sounds like oven, man, and that's just, it doesn't work.
Coven.
Unless you want to put an umlaut or something over the O.
A what? Yeah, hold on a second. Those two dots?
Yes. Possible.
There we go. So there you go. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by, wait, who else do we have today? Oh, we have Body Bio. Right. Is today Body Bio? Yeah, today's Body Bio. Go to bodybio.com. Use code FIRECJ for 20% off anything. Body Bio going to have a Mike's contest with we're going to bring somebody up on the stage. You're going to be able to get a Body Bio prize pack. Hopefully, it has some Gut Plus in there. Gut Plus, a Mike favorite. Gut Plus, the only gut supplement you need. Quite simply, if you're taking a probiotic, I'm not even going to explain the whole thing. If you're taking probiotic, what I would do is try Gut Plus instead of that probiotic. What Gut Plus is going to allow your body to do is create its own probiotics naturally, which will be more effective and will end up getting rid of those symptoms that you are trying to get rid of. And then I would recommend to you Elite. Elite is pure electrolytes. no artificial colors, no artificial flavors, no sugar, no anything. Just put a little bit of it in your drink in the morning, a little bit in the evening. For me, it solved my cramping problem. It keeps you the right amount of hydrated, because hydration is not just water, it is electrolytes as well. I now drink it straight, which is very tough. It is very salty, but I like doing it. It makes me feel like a hardcore hydrator. We love Body Bio. They're family owned, family operated from Jersey, and the only supplement place you need. Go to bodybio.com, use FireCJ for 20% off anything. Again, that is bodybio.com, code FireCJ. Mike, I woke up to a new 7-year NBA collective bargaining agreement. Have you had time to look at the headlines of
I saw some headlines, yeah.
So it's a few main things. I woke up this morning and I saw the CBA. I was like, fuck, I can now got to read articles. I got enough to do. I got to read articles. So a few big notes. One, this is per Adrian Wojnarowski. The NBA is curbing the ability of the highest spending teams, such as the Warriors and the Clippers, to continue running up salary and luxury tax spending while still maintaining mechanisms to add talent to the roster. The NBA is implementing a second salary cap apron, $17.5 million over the tax line, and those teams will no longer have access to the taxpayer mid-level and free agency. Those changes will be eased into the salary cap over a period of years. Under these changes, Golden State's Dante DiVincenzo, Milwaukee's Joe Ingles, Milwaukee, famously a very big spending team, and Boston's Danilo Gallinari and John Wall wouldn't have been able to sign with those teams last summer. Mike, any thoughts?
I don't know. I just don't think we should penalize teams for being willing to spend money.
Yeah, I agree. It is unfair, but that is also what the profit sharing should do, in that should even those things out. Like, the fact of the matter is that a mid-market team is just never going to have as much money as a New York or San Francisco or LA team. So, but their
owners might be more wealthy than them.
Yeah, but I mean that, like, sort of gets into, people always talk about like the owners' private wealth, like funding a basketball team, which on some level it does. Like Ballmer is somebody like that, but you know, it is a business. I mean, like, and if they're not that person, I don't know, whatever. I guess I don't care one way or the other. If they want to do it, fine. If they don't want to do it, don't do it. I actually don't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's less of a problem in basketball than it is in baseball, when there's teams just like not fielding a product, basically.
Yep.
But I just think, like, yeah, if they want, you know, they're buying a basketball team for it's. I know it's business, but it's also like vanity. Like, so much, you're not buying a basketball. You can buy a, you know, I don't know, fucking finance something. You know, you can buy real estate or some bullshit for if it's just about business for you. Like, you're buying a basketball team or any team, any sports organization, because you're supposedly like, give a shit about this team. You want to win something, and you want to like be responsible for that winning. And you look at like John Middleton spending a ton of fucking money because he wants to win. And whether or not it's like the right business decision for himself financially, like, obviously, you know, the Phillies fans don't give a fuck about that. And so I think if Steve Ballmer wants to spend all of his money paying as many guys, obviously there's some like salary cap implications of it, but like to sort of take away the possibility of a mid-level, it's like, I don't know. I wish it wasn't the case. I think owners being hungry to win is good for them.
I agree with that. The in-season tournament will start. Oh no, before we get to mid-season tournament, in an attempt to curb load management and lost games among star players, the NBA is tying eligibility for postseason awards such as All NBA and MVP to a mandatory 65 games played. The 65 game minimum does come with some conditions, and I don't know what that means. So the thing that this doesn't address is like that it is not just the players who are responsible for the players not playing as much. Like, the teams are as responsible, in some cases more responsible, for the players not playing as much. So while I do think that giving teams and players incentives to have star players play more, because it is good for the product, because most teams are not winning a championship. So the regular season is important. Most people are not going to finals games. They're watching regular season games. So those should be more meaningful. But like strictly putting the onus on the players to play more, I think is a little short-sighted in that the teams are most times just as guilty of this. So I don't know. I think that teams should have different incentive as well.
I don't know. I mean, any number that they could have picked, if they're setting it at a number, is arbitrary. There's no like right amount of games that would be like, yes, you contributed to winning at a positive level, whatever. I think the difference between 64 and 65 games is nothing. And so I understand the instinct, I guess, to like put it at something so that voters or whatever don't have to do that math themselves and decide what they're comfortable with. But I don't know. That's part of the thing. I don't know. Like if you missed like the first 3 weeks because of something, you missed the first 3 weeks of the season, you missed say like 9 or 10 games.
Yeah.
And then you miss like a couple games here and there. And then it's the last week of the season and you're like, I can't miss any more games. And I have like a calf thing. Like, I don't know. It's just a weird, it's.
Well, but it does, I think if you're talking value, that should be a total, the amount of, I do think the amount of games you play should be considered. I guess I agree with you in that.
Disagree.
Yeah. The problem is that it's hard. It's as hard as it is to come up with an arbitrary number that puts the right number on it. I think it's even harder to leave it up to everyone else to decide what the right number is. Do you know what I mean? Like because that is flexible as well. So,
but people are voting for MVP and not considering defense, and so
I agree with you.
There's all sorts of qualifications. Yeah. Joel, by the way, this season has played 63 games so far.
Yeah, and he will get to 65.
And how many has Paul Reed played? Let's just check.
By the way, Paul Reed, I think, is now 41 points away from passing Ben Simmons with 5 games to go.
Paul Reed has played 64 games. So in one more game, he is eligible for the MVP. Let's just factor that in.
If we could get Paul Reed a 5th place vote.
Yeah.
Also, the in-season tournament could arrive as soon as the 23-24 season. The event will include pool play games baked into the regular season schedule starting in November, with 8 teams advancing to a single elimination tournament in December. The final 4, he wrote all caps. Like they can't call it that. Will be held at a neutral site with Las Vegas. The Frisky Four, with the Las Vegas prominent in the discussion, sources said. Each in-season tournament game would count toward regular season standings. The 2 finalists would ultimately play 83 regular season games. Winning players and coaches will earn additional prize money. I read somewhere else, maybe it was Shams, that the winning money for players is $500,000 each.
Yeah. Which
of course will mean somebody like Jalen McDaniels will be diving into the 4th row to win the in-season tournament while James and Joel watch from the locker room as they did the Bulls game. You know?
Well, it'll count towards regular season games though, right?
Yes, it will. It will.
But then won't there be an uneven amount of games played?
Only for the finalists who will play 1 extra game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I loved the play-in tournament. That is a thing with like implications for the fan base.
Not for $500,000 for the players.
Not for $500,000 for the players. I get them trying to do something in the middle of the season to give you some juice, and I get that this is like
motivate players. You have to motivate players some way.
Yeah, you know? I get that there's like a soccer comparison to be made of like the little cups that they do and shit. It would be nice if there was something a little bit more tangible for like to drum up interest for watching. I get the players want part of it for sure. And if money is the thing, then great. Like I understood the impetus of like baseball to go like, hey, the All-Star game matters and whoever wins it gets home field. And like, that's a little crazy. I understand why people didn't like it, but like, it would be nice if there was like something.
Yep.
It'd be nice if there was something.
And then the final thing, which I think this podcast and you specifically will always endorse, there's an increase in 2-way contract slots, jumping from 2 to 3 per team. 2-way contracts were created.
We got them. It's happening. Here we go.
Another player we'll never see play on the Sixers.
Add another round to the draft.
Yeah.
Let's go.
God, can you imagine? We have to. It's got to be a second night. I'm not doing a podcast
great.
at 2:30.
Make it a second week.
Yeah.
I don't care. Let's do it. No, I think people don't want there to be a third round of the draft because of like players then have limited.
Yeah.
If they just announced undrafted players, like players can choose what they want to go, like even just announcing it in a draft sense rather than like over the course of the rest of the night, like in batches, that would be helpful. It's a little bit, it takes the excitement away from me, but yeah, a third two-way spot. Let's go. Let's do it. Get them all in there. There should be 15 regular spots and 15 two-way spots. Let's do it.
Well, they're gonna have to extend the bench. You're gonna have
yes.
3
Why
rows
not?
of the bench.
Extend the bench because you extend the bench, and then all the photographers have to step back. People get hurt less. Like it's good for everybody. Trying to improve the sport here.
The Spotify question of the pod, if you look below the player, if you're listening on Spotify, CJ always puts a question in there. The last pod, the question from CJ was, which player will unexpectedly get a ton of playoff minutes? Ryan says Daniel Fall Guy House. Shake, because things will go horribly wrong. West Coast Reject. We all know who it won't be. BBall Paul. Love you, CJ.
Easy.
And McDunn 0918 says Montrezl Harrell because Doc will, quote, get a feeling.
Oh man, I will lose it. I will.
Could you imagine?
Lose it.
Could you imagine?
No, I can't, and I won't. Couple of just last things on the game because we didn't talk. I did think it was a great. No, we talked barely about the game.
We talked for 30 minutes.
We talked about Embiid and Harden. I want to tell you something nice about PJ. I thought it was a great PJ game.
It was a great PJ game. 3 threes. I think he shot 6 or 7 of them. Right?
He shot 6. He had 2 corner threes early. He just like has to be a threat. Like he has to be a willing threat. And then they started playing off him in the fourth quarter. Jakob Poeltl plays all the way off him. He shot it again. He shot a couple in the fourth, and he hit one, and that's just like a massive. Players, if you play off guys, we saw it with plenty of name a player over the years that the Sixers have had guys play off their shot. But like PJ is a guy that has at least a reputation for hitting corner threes, and if you play off him so much, and then he hits one, like that is going, and your coach is still like, don't cover him still, like that. It becomes like a little mutiny among the player, a little of like they're not fully on. And so he's just got to be willing to take those shots. He's got to be willing to take those shots, and he's got to hit them at the wide open threes at the clip that he's always hit wide open threes. So I thought it was a good game for PJ, and I was happy to see it. And I thought Maxi's defense on Fred VanVleet was great. Fred
VanVleet is the most deceptively slow player I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah. He's quick. He is slow.
Yeah. Deceptively meaning like you don't think about Fred VanVleet being slow, but then you watch him and you're like, man, it sort of takes him forever to get everywhere. You know?
He always shoots bad against Sixers, which is great. I appreciate that. And I thought Maxey did a good job on him. Moved his feet well. I thought it was nice. 6 turnovers. I thought it was great. And I did think it was a nice two-way game from Jalen McDaniels and Dan House.
Yep.
But the biggest concern for me really is just like they just ball watch too much. Are you seeing that also? Are you? Is it just me like watching it and like writing my little notes down and seeing all the times that they're ball watching? Because it feels like every time I rewind it and I'm like,
I don't. The problem, I do see it when you point it out. The problem is I don't watch for it on other teams. So I just like I have a hard time wondering what is a symptom of us and what is a symptom of just like this is how players are. You know, I have no idea.
Well, Harden does it the most. There was a couple times he did. There was an Anunoby backdoor that Harden just wasn't even like vaguely aware of. Later, he's just like looking at the ball again. Anunoby slides to the corner and hits a corner three. Melton looked too much and lost Scotty on a cut to the basket. And Niang looks all the time, and then Niang overhelps and leaves his man to like offer fake help. It's just like all the time. I just don't. I just wonder. I want to like. There was a really good Matt Gelb article about Bryce Harper, like watching his at bat from last year's playoffs. I thought it was awesome, and I want to see like a version of that with the Sixers, where they're watching all the times they're overhelping, or just like totally caught looking, and the Raptors were cutting off of that. Like you could pick. It happens so many times per game, and sometimes they get burned by it, sometimes they don't. But like, I just don't. I want to know that they're talking about it. I want someone from the Sixers organization, someone on the coaching staff, to just like reach out to me and be like, we know. I just want that. And then you go like, okay, the players are like not locked in, and occasionally like they make a mistake, whatever. But I just want to know that they think it's a problem, because the way that we're watching the games and it happens so often, I don't know that they either realize it's a problem or realize that it's happening or anything. I just feel like I'm going crazy because it happens so often, and I would need some assurance that it exists and the coaching staff is aware of it. So somebody reach out.
Just one more thing on the game is brought to you by LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
That's right.
It is Mike's segment, 53 minutes into the podcast after we haven't talked about the game for 20 minutes.
We went to Coven. Like, I got to say some nice stuff about PJ when he plays well.
No, I appreciate it. Certainly as a PJ believer, I will take any compliment on him I can get. LL, speaking of Coven, every time we post something on social about it, LL interestingly tweets out or comments on Instagram, give him whatever he wants.
Wow.
So it's interesting that he is okay with negotiating with terrorists. You have to wonder what his involvement in all of this is. He was the first sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, and since then, over 300 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners have purchased engagement rings from LL, all of them fucking thrilled. He will be at Live Ricky 5. He's been at every event we've ever done. He's been on every trip we've ever done. And he treats our listeners so good. Like so good. You go into a normal jewelry store and they're just fucking on you like a hawk. Pressure. That's not how it is with LL. You can tell because he doesn't even want you just walking in. He wants you to make an appointment so he can spend time with you. And again, you're going to buy an engagement ring. Doesn't matter if you're spending $100,000 or $1,000 or whatever you have to spend. You are still as important to him. Been in business in the same spot. What are we at? 35 years now? 35 years. I think we just celebrated that anniversary. 707 Walnut is where the store is. If you want to make an appointment, lee@llpavorsky.com is the email address. 215-627-2252 is the phone number, or just tweet at him at @llpavorsky. You can see all his pro-Coven tweets there. Very strange. Negotiate with terrorists. He is also a supporter of our charities, Providence Animal Center and Mama T's Community Fridge. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
It does bring me joy to say this. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
From Rights to Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. This comes from Dan. We know a couple things about Mike. He talks about basketball. He plays basketball. And he talks about basketball. My question, though, is
wasn't there talked about basketball twice in there?
Talks about basketball, plays basketball. Yes, he does have that twice in it. That wasn't me. That was Dan.
That's fair. I do talk about it twice.
Oh, no. He talks about basketball and he talks about playing basketball.
Okay.
Those are different. Okay. So my question, though, is he actually any good at basketball? I need to see a couple of clips of Mike shooting, dribbling, maybe some in-game highlights. I feel like I'm pretty good at basketball. I just need to see how he matches up. I just need it. Spike, I know you can make this happen. I'm counting on you.
No, that's fair. I would want to see if I'm good at basketball if I was listening to this podcast, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I can hang.
Yep.
My shot has been going in lately, but I'm not typically a good shooter. I'm like a Josh Hart type. I'm flying around. I'm driving and kicking. I'm probably one of the best players in the game I play in, and that's more an indictment on the game than it is saying that I'm good. But yeah, I can hang. I know what I'm doing out there.
And second question from Dan: what are some good non-bullshit interview tips? Some important job interviews coming up, and I feel like you guys have some good knowledge to pass on in that department.
I definitely don't, because my industry is very different than anything else.
Danny says Pod has been on another level this year. Keep it up. Well, I can tell you, not only have I've interviewed far more people than I've been interviewed for jobs. I think I've only been on like 4 job interviews in my life. But here is my tip as an interviewer. When somebody asks you a question in an interview, how would you handle a situation like X? How would you handle a situation like Y? Instead of giving a general answer like anyone would give, which everyone knows is the right answer, give an example of when you had a specific situation and give them detail on how you handled it. I think everyone can give a general idea of how you handle conflict, what you do if X, what you do if Y. But if you have real world examples of a similar situation that you handled well, I think you come across as not just a good interviewer, but actually a person who is good at your job. So that is my hint for anyone who is going on a job interview.
And I would say be funny, watch the show, come up with storylines that you think that in your life that you could sort of infuse into the show, and just be like chill about it.
If you're interviewing for a TV show.
Nope.
Oh.
Everything.
833 Lickface. That is 833 Lickface.
Hey, this is Reagan. On the last podcast, Mike said they should come up with another term or name for help defense. And my personal opinion is you should call it edging, because what's the point? You never really get anywhere. And when you look back on it, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, that was pretty embarrassing.
Mike, would you like to call it edging?
I think it's a candidate for sure. We'll field other submissions, but I think it's certainly good to have a leader in the clubhouse for sure.
This comes from Ross in Scotland, writes Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. Dear Spike, Mike, and the guy who was switched for CJ by Coven. Hi, guys. Long time this time. Basketball question. Now that Ben Simmons' era is fully over in Philly, time to revisit the 2016 draft. Given the full 6-year Ben Simmons experience, would the Sixers have been more successful with Ben or with Brandon Ingram over the first 6 years? Ben helped us take to regular season success and was pretty spectacular early in his career, but then became increasingly lost. Ingram improved steadily from his rookie year, but also seems to have hit a ceiling lower than peak Ben. It is an interesting question because I wonder how early Ingram's game would have melded with Embiid. You know, not that Simmons was perfect, but at least he wasn't taking a lot of possessions to be good. What do you think?
I mean, I think for the first 4 years it's Ben, and maybe for the last 2 it's Ingram, probably. I'm not an Ingram guy. I don't think he's very good. I think the Pelicans are better without him if Zion's healthy. But I mean, I think the answer is Jaylen Brown, unfortunately.
That's a good answer. 833 Lickface.
Hey, Spike, Mike, and CJ. It's Connor from Easton. Just a quick question. What do you think is the minimum 3-point percentage that George Niang needs to make to justify his existence on the defensive end of the floor? Non-basketball question. What would George Niang be better suited to doing than being a basketball player?
So I think in the playoffs, he's got to shoot 45% from 3.
I mean, I would take over 38 on volume. I just need him to not get cold. And just like, honestly, yes, he's going to get beat off the dribble by some guys. He's going to get sought out for sure. And I think that's the reason why you don't play him necessarily in late in the fourth quarter unless he's like absolutely on fire. It really is so much overhelping. Imagining how much he's running out to a shooter with his hair on fire because he is unhelpfully tagged or edged a big man in the paint that he wasn't going to do anything about. And now all of a sudden they make the very obvious pass to the wide open guy in the corner that George was covering. I understand he's like playing help defense in the way that like some people think it's okay to do, but like he is not long or fast enough or quick reactive enough to do that. And so I'd rather him just stay on a guy. I know I say this all the time, and I'm sorry for the listeners, but it's driving me crazy.
Non-basketball question. Mike writes a script for a new pilot based on the Ricky. What's its title and who is playing Spike and Mike?
I wouldn't do that. I would never try to make the Ricky more of my life. The Sixers, and it was too close.
Yeah, with the Simmons
with Ben
show.
Simmons,
Yeah.
and it was nice to get paid to do that. But I think it's a somewhat unhealthy distance. As is, it can't get closer.
My suggestion, not mine, the listener suggestion, the Rights to Ricky Sanchez Comedy Hour. The actors playing us are Paul Rudd and Jared Leto. That's complimentary toward me. I assume Paul Rudd is you. That would be my guess. I think physically that makes a little more sense, though the Leto thing doesn't make much sense for me. Bonus question, would you find an actor to play CJ, or is the iconic "I'm growing up on the show right in front of you" vibe too hard to replicate?
I think CJ plays himself.
Yeah, like Jeremy Miller in was it Family Ties? Yes. One more voicemail. I think you will like this one. 833 Lickface.
Hey, my name's Rob. First long time. More of a basketball question for Mike. Watching Zach Edey and Drew Timme in the tournament, which one of these guys do you think is more likely to be a -20 playing backup center to Embiid, and why? And non-basketball, what's the worst landlord you've ever had? Thanks. Bye.
Ah, that is good. Okay. I didn't hear that part.
I think, I go back and forth. Like, Drew Timme's an excellent college player. And he's going to have to at least become a serviceable outside shooter, which I think he will, if he wants to play even a little bit at the next level, the way like Luka Garza is like playing a little bit for Minnesota. I go back and forth because like Kevin McHale obviously was like a stunningly good post player and you couldn't do anything about it. Like, how good would Kevin McHale today have to be in college for people to look at him as like, that's going to translate into the NBA? I don't know the answer. I don't, it's like, we haven't seen anything like that in a while. I think people thought Okafor could be that, but he didn't defend at all and also didn't have much range. So you have to be able to do more than Kevin McHale could, but I think he was so good in the post that as long as you're like a capable defender, then he would be able to. Anyway, so I'm wondering about that with Drew Timme. I don't think he's the guy, but I'm interested to see it. I think Zach Edey will play a little bit in the NBA. I was when I watched some tournament games with young Jake Pavorsky, he compared him to Boban, and I think that's pretty obvious but pretty fair. Of like, big guy, has touch, has a good feel for the game, rebounds. Isn't going to defend in space, isn't going to, be a monster. As far as minutes goes, but
I've never seen this player, but that is funny.
Yeah, I mean, he's 7'5". He's
okay.
Like, he's got touch. He's, probably a little bit more athletic than Boban, but probably, yeah, we'll see. I think he'll play a little bit probably. So let's say Zach Edey, because they'll switch him out on the perimeter and he won't be able to do anything about it.
And then worst landlord? Do you have any bad landlords? I have one particular bad landlord. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, generally anti-landlord overall, but I think the one I had during the pandemic at the last apartment was me and Alyssa had stayed there for so long that they were just like trying to get us out. So they painted the building at a certain point and painted all the doors in the building except for ours. And when we were like, hey, when are you going to do that? All the doors look nice, and ours is like all chipped and shitty. And the guy said, no, I'm trying to preserve the natural wood of just our door. It's like, okay. And then he came in at the beginning of COVID because he just like burst in because all of the like smoke detectors, or they were like the batteries all ran out at the same exact time, like a week into COVID. And so he just like came in without like any warning. It was like, what the fuck, man? We don't know what's going on. So that kind of sucked. And he didn't like me at all. Like, he liked Alyssa, but that guy hated me. Phil.
I've had good experiences with almost all my landlords. Specifically, one house we lived in South Philly, our landlords were our neighbors. And they were great because they cared about the house more than like we cared about the house, but they really fucking cared about the house. So he was always fixing it. But I had we rented a house on like around 3rd and Rittner, and it was a guy who was like doing this thing where he wanted to like buy a South Philly row house and then fix it up and rent it for a while and then flip it, like one of these flip it guys.
Sure.
But he had no idea what being a landlord entailed.
No.
So he didn't hire like a management company or anything. So if something went wrong, I had to call him. So our sink didn't work. I'll finish this quickly. Our sink didn't work one day, and he was like in Italy or something. So like there was no one I could call to fix it.
Yeah.
So then finally, this was great. Everything was done extra cheap in there. I'm in our kitchen, and we have a cabinet up on the wall full of like our glassware. I move away from the cabinet just for a second, and I hear the loudest crash I've ever heard behind me as the cabinet has fallen off the wall.
The whole cabinet?
The whole cabinet and every glass in there. So if I
like
had been...
Like a tip, the whole cabinet tips, or
Yes.
like the
No,
like
it
shelves
tipped.
all break?
No,
Oh,
no,
tip,
no.
okay.
It tipped. So it fell like literally pulled off the wall.
Wow.
Every glass broke. If I had been 3 feet over, I would have been horribly injured.
Mm-hmm.
The postscript to this is when we move out, he tells us that he's keeping our security deposit.
Sure, because of the tipping.
To fix that.
Yeah.
So not only did I send him an intent to sue letter and tell him I wanted my money back, but I sent him a bill for all the fucking glasses that broke.
Sure.
And he paid for that too. Fuck that guy. I'm not saying his full name, but fuck him. Every other landlord really great though, that I've had at least, I think. I'm trying to remember. I had a bunch of neighbors. Okay, last landlord thing. This was funny. We had a big party in this house I rented in Old City. This is the only party I've ever had in my life. We paid a guy at WYSP to stand out front with wristbands and check for people's name. My landlord lived in the same building, and he came up to me the next day and he was like, "How was the party last night?" I was like, "Fine." He was like, "Your door guy wouldn't let me in because I wasn't on the list."
Pretty good.
I thought that was good too. So we have the Bucks on Sunday night, the Celtics on Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, assuming Embiid plays in both of those, he looks good. I think he locks up the MVP with those 2 games.
Well, it's interesting because Celtics are a game and a half back of the Bucks with the tiebreaker. Not many games left. 5 games left for Milwaukee. 4 games left for Boston. I mean, you're rooting for Boston to get the 1 seed, right?
Well, that means we would play Milwaukee. No, I think Milwaukee is more dangerous to the Sixers than
You do.
Boston is. I do.
I don't know if it's because I just want something different, and I do want, and just like interest-wise, want to see a Sixers-Bucks series. I mean, they just haven't beaten Boston, man. They haven't beaten them this year.
It would be tedious.
It'd be tedious, but I also hear your point, which I think is a good one, of, you know, in the like Michael Jordan against the Pistons, the bad boy Pistons kind of thing. Like you need to lose to this team a few times before you can then prevail.
Yeah.
And that would be satisfying, but it would also be devastating if they lost again to the fucking Celtics, these miserable sons of bitches. So I don't know. But right now it looks like the Sixers are definitely going to be the 3 seed, as it has looked for a while, and with a couple, except for a couple like fleeting moments. And it looks like it's going to be the Brooklyn. It's going to be the non-Ben Simmons Brooklyn Nets in the 6th seed.
Which we will talk ourselves into, which we all believe is the best matchup they could have had in the first round, which will inevitably mean that it will go 7 games.
Maybe. I think it's the best matchup. I less because Brooklyn is terrible. I mean, obviously Mikal Bridges is very good and improving, and they're deep, and they have just a bunch of long-limbed guys that can make it tough.
Yeah, I don't think they're terrible. They're just talent level. I just don't think.
A little lower, yeah. But to me, the better thing is if it's Miami, Toronto as the 7-8, that's a tough. Those are tough matchups for Boston and Milwaukee, so they're not getting to like sleepwalk through. If somehow it's like Atlanta and Chicago that get through, then that's pretty easy for them. But if it's Miami and Toronto, like that'll be difficult. At least like I don't know. I don't think either team is gonna win, but it is gonna be like a physical bruising type of series that's gonna make it hard on those guys. They're gonna have to work for it.
I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point. Yeah. All right. Well, we will talk.
Final Four today.
Oh yes.
Final Four yesterday. Don Staley with the loss. I thought it was a horribly coached game. I was really
from
disappointed
Don Staley.
What?
A horribly coached game by Don.
Yeah, she did. I thought she did a terrible job. I really thought they just like defending Caitlin Clark. They did a horrendous job. That she didn't try to send anything different at her. She walked to the basket for layups over and over again. I thought it was like I was very confused by it. But yeah, loving college basketball. Even if the product is obviously worse, it's still exciting and very fun. And I love basketball. I love basketball. I love watching basketball. I love playing basketball. I love watching and playing basketball at the same time.
We'll talk to you Tuesday night after the Boston game. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah. You know, lick face.